Hello, hello. I am working on getting everything ready, so let's go. The idea, insight, or sales secret you need for massive impact is just moments away. Now it's time to get more clients. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get More Clients. I'm your host, Lynn Whitbeck. Business owners and entrepreneurs hire me to ignite winning sales because most are chasing down leads, lack client retention, loyalty, and profit. The mission of this show is to share Fortune 500 sales secrets to help you open the vault to your greater business success. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about a movie that came up recently as we approach the 4th of July here in the US. It's called Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde. And many of you may have seen this, but in the movie, Congresswoman Victoria Rudd falls into a perception trap of believing that support of Bruiser's bill would negatively impact her political standing and relationships with influential lobbyists. She projects her own political view rather than discovering what matters to her allies. So, in contrast, the protagonist, Elle Woods, approaches the same situation with all those potential alliances, I should say, with worthy intent. So now Elle, of course, is the star of Legally Blonde, beautiful Reese Witherspoon. And in the movie, Elle has this genuine passion and determination to really invested in the cause. Now, it's Bruiser's Bill, which is the name of her dog. And this is really important to her. So Elle builds relationships with various senators and representatives by identifying their emotions and motivations around the issue. Then she weaves these into common ground, focusing on their personal interests to gain support for the bill. Ultimately, understanding the emotions and motivations of your prospects is key to close more sales with ease. Just like Elle in Legally Blonde 2, closing the sale is grounded in establishing those shared values and interests. Now, last episode, I shared the secret power of interviewing prospects, existing and past clients. And today, I'm going to be discussing why deciphering emotions and motivations gets stronger sales. Using emotions and motivations in communicating your client why enables you to immediately pique their interest and secure their attention. Now, remember that client why, that's their perspective. That's what do they want, need, or lack? Why does it matter to them? So they can what? What's that big dream, the goal, the initiative they're trying to achieve? And when you're working with those emotions and motivations, this is totally key because it's an effective way to break down barriers to attract and connect with your prospective clients. Now, by the end of today's show, you're going to know how to understand your client's motivation, how to identify and match your product or service to your client's emotions, and position your product or service to fit your client's motivations and emotional desires. Understanding your client why, their emotions, and their motivations is a secret sauce to positioning your product or service. Let's dive into motivations. And I'm going to have a sip of coffee. I think I'm stumbling so much because I haven't had enough coffee this morning. All right, motivations. Once you understand the client's why, and you've matched it to your product or service, the benefits, it's time to identify your client's motivation. Now, understanding your prospect's motivation allows you to position your product or service to fit their desires. Motivation is the key reason why any of us do anything, right? It's why I do this show every week. Motivation is generated either internally or externally. Internal motivation is what drives us to make decisions based on our own wants and or needs. External motivation is driven by outside factors in our environment. Another factor is whether you cater to a B2B audience. Your product or service is for a B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to client. Now, for a quick explanation of that, you can look at a company like Apple. So Apple has absolutely B2C with the Apple stores and a lot of Apple products, but they also have a B2B division, and they have an entire business to business group that works directly with businesses to put the Mac computers and products and phones into those businesses. So business to business is selling specifically to another business. That's B2B. Now, a business to consumer, or B2C, is where you're selling to an individual or a consumer of the product, such as the Apple Store versus the Apple business team. They're very different types of sales, and there's different types of motivations. When you think about it, why would that be? Well, if you're working for a business, you're working for a company, and you're considering a product or service for your business or the company you work for, your motivations are different, especially when you're selling to a business where, they're part of a team. They're not the owner or the CEO of the business, but they are the decision maker. Their motivations are going to be quite different than the motivations of an individual who's making a purchase. So the question we want to ask is, how does the problem we solve or the solution we deliver appeal to our buyer's motivation? Now, many of you may have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you haven't, I'm going to tell you about it, because it establishes that as long as your food, shelter, and safety is taken care of, then anything else, such as your social connections, your relationships, and your ultimate self-fulfillment or self-actualization, can be reached. Now, applying this concept helps us tap into your buyer motivations, right? Because you're selling to someone that they've already have that food and the shelter and their safety. So everything else, that self-fulfillment and or self-actualization, is what they're seeking. So there has to be a level of credibility, whether you're selling B2B or B2C. So that credibility, that's the confidence that you project and the confidence your prospect or your client has in you. When you're projecting that confidence, you immediately are perceived as more credible. Just as your posture, sitting up straight, rolling your shoulders back, making eye contact, that all presents a much more confident individual. And that immediately is conveyed to your prospect. When we identify the motivating reason why your prospects want to buy from you, this is what really gets exciting. And then we're going to look into, what is that? Is it belonging? They want to belong to an exclusive group that owns a Tesla, whatever that is, certainly on a B2C level. Is it prestige from that client's standpoint? Well, I could use Tesla there again. Is it for pleasure? Well, maybe they really enjoy driving that car. Is it to be affiliated with a company such as yours? So there's a lot of different reasons. So there are 7 core buyer motivations. I'm going to walk through those right now. The first one is comfort or pleasure. Well, that's pretty darn obvious. Are you going to be comfortable in that new car? Are you going to take pleasure in driving it? It's a smooth ride. Avoidance of pain. Well, this could certainly be a safety issue. Avoidance of pain can also be a lot of different things, such as, going back to my Apple example, having Apple Care, right? If you have Apple Care, you're not going to have a lot of pain, because if something goes wrong, you're going to get your phone replaced or your computer replaced. It will be taken care of, right? So that's a great one. Profit or gain. Oh, well, that's obvious. Is this going to make them be able to be more profitable? Is this an improved process within the organization? Is this improving employee engagement? Are you making an investment that's going to pay back in a much higher rate of return for you, that return on investment? Okay, preventing loss. That's another one. I I'm not sure what number I'm up to at this point. I think it's 4. Preventing loss, number 4. So preventing loss, what is that? What is that all about? Well, think about it. How many times do we see commercials for insurance specifically for preventing loss, right? If you're in that car accident, the car is replaced. I mean, preventing loss also ties into that Apple Care. Now, belonging is definitely one of those very powerful motivations and emotions, that you're belonging to a group, welcoming people to a community, that when you're buying a product or service, that it means that you're part of this exclusive club. Now, this could also be cause affiliation. That's number 6. And that could be where you're buying a product or service because it specifically supports a cause or affiliation. So you can think about this in a lot of different ways, like Nespresso coffee pods. This is a direct to consumer, but they recycle those pods. They make it really, really easy for you to mail in your pods, and they recycle the aluminum and they recycle the actual coffee grounds. And so they have a whole process. And if you are passionate about recycling or the planet and environmental issues, that's a great way that you could feel really good about buying that product, because you know that you're not just putting stuff into a landfill, and they make it really easy. All right, pride and prestige, and we can go back to the Tesla, driving a Tesla, right? There's a certain level of pride and prestige that comes from owning a really fancy car. Back in the day, I have to tell you that one of the things that I did to motivate me in sales, this is when I first started out, I actually had a poster. So this was a motivation technique. I had a poster of a Porsche Turbo Carrera. That was like my dream car. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story about that too. Your motivations and emotions, they do change over time. I never owned that car. And I could certainly have purchased it after a few years of being in sales. However, things change. I bought a house. So life and our motivations, they change over time. So that's the other thing to keep in mind and stay in tune. So in general, what we've just discussed is that B2B buyers, they're motivated by some combination of profit and gain, preventing loss, and cause affiliation. Many businesses have a soul. Not all. I can definitely list a bunch, but many are very concerned about specific causes, and they put their efforts in and behind that. Look at Nespresso and making this huge effort to recycle those coffee pods. I mean, that's a big deal. So if you have a client who's highly motivated on a corporate level for a specific cause, then it's going to carry through to their culture or motivation. And that's with a company or individuals. So B2B buyers, on the other hand, or B2C, I should say, direct to consumer, they can be motivated by any combination of these motivations and attributes. So to captivate your clients, you must frame your answer to their why with their underlying motivation. So how do you work on that? And that's that whole client why, figuring out the client why and really diving into your ideal client avatar. All of that's going to help you. When you're appealing to your client's motivations, you want to answer the problem you solve, and you want to identify the motivation or motivations, and then ask, does that motivation have an emotional appeal? Now, let's just sort of switch gears into emotions. I just did. Does the motivation have an emotional appeal? By tapping into the emotions of your clients, you can make sure your company stands out. You know, we're human beings. We all have emotions. And harnessing a single emotion like happiness, sadness, anger, fear helps your prospects notice, remember, and buy your products or service. You know, people feel and they can't help but experience emotions. So, I want to talk about the top 10 most common and effective emotional triggers. So, let's sort of explore this. And as we go through these, I want you to think about what you may have seen, heard, or read in a sales or marketing material and how it made you feel and how those feelings reflected in your own buying decisions. It's important to appeal to the consumer's emotions when communicating to move them to take action. Feelings affect buying decisions. I can't say this enough. You want to appeal to the client's emotions, make them feel something, and they want you, then make them want to act on those feelings. So let's walk through those. And this time I'm going to number them so I keep track. Number one is fear. Wow, it's used in such a wide variety of settings. And I used insurance earlier, so I'm going to do that again, such as don't get caught with too little insurance. Number two, guilt. Oh my goodness, guilt. What a big one. People are easily affected by messages that trigger guilt. And these are often in nonprofits. It's a classic example of don't let them suffer, whether it's, let me tell you, all the different ones with the animals. Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes me feel guilty. It makes me feel horrible, right? Okay. Number three, belonging. You want to feel like you belong. You know, human nature drives our desires to feel part of a group. So an example of this would be you are part of the family, or welcome to our community. Number four is trust and crafting statements and content, I should say, that evoke feelings of trust. So in the matter of things like banking or investments, no hidden fees. That's a good one. And we've got number five, value. Everyone loves to get a good deal. This is a great example, and you see this in a lot of different places, like Best Buy. If you find a better price, we're going to match it, right? And so that is a great thing. Competition is number six. The desire to feel equal to or better than your peers. And that's that old adage of keeping up with the Joneses. So an example of this could be make them drool, right? When you drive into your driveway with your brand new Tesla. Number seven, trend setting. You want to feel cool or trendy, and other than my Tesla example I've been using a lot today, it could be all the cool kids are doing it, right? And number eight is leadership. You want to feel like you're first or in control. And a good example of this is be the first on your block, be a trendsetter, be a leader. Number nine is instant gratification. So you want to cater to a sense of urgency, and clients have become hardwired to expect instant gratification. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like you just get frustrated when you click on something, it doesn't immediately pop up, right? So an example of this could be within 24 hours, but you can certainly see how that could be used in so many different ways. And number 10, rounding up our top 10 of emotions, is time. We are all busier than ever, and the desire for more free time to pursue personal interests, spend time with family, and so on, it is a very powerful emotion, and I might say motivator, right? It's that feeling that we have. So an example could be, this sounds like a pretty funny one, but cut the time it takes to vacuum your house in half. I'm also thinking of like the Swiffer commercials. Now, they don't do vacuums, but when you think about that, They are showing you how you can quickly clean your house with the Swiffers. So that's a commercial I think I saw recently. And these are those top 10. And however, there are many, many emotional triggers that evoke feelings among your target audience, and that will move them to action. And the key is, what is your ideal client avatar? What are those emotions? What are those motivators? And the goal for you is to give your ideal clients a reason to connect with them by making them feel something. And when they see, hear, or read your content, they feel that. All right. So another resource that I'd like to refer you to is Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. So this is a really great tool. You can find the graphic with a quick Google search, and we also have it displayed on our website. So just put that in the toolbar and you will find it. If you, what's great about it, it will provide you with a visual range of emotions, and it can help you identify which emotions will best appeal to your prospective clients and your product or service. So here's a way to get to that. All right, here's an exercise. What I want you to do is ask, does my buyer motivation have an emotional appeal? Okay, now, obviously, you need to have identified your buyer's motivation. You know, what is that motivation? Remember that B2B versus B2C. This is B2B, it tends to fall into those three categories. And then you're going to think the next step in this is, how can I incorporate emotional triggers into my sales? All right. So now this is that piece where you want to identify the client's desired outcome, that's so they can, the perceived benefit, why it matters to them, what's in it for them, and then which emotions are coming up with that. What's driving that? What's the emotional part of that desired outcome and perceived benefit? And then you're going to use your tone to communicate that emotion. And the tone, it comes across in so many different ways, whether you're speaking live or the tone within the written language. And in that language, you're going to be choosing those words that evoke that emotional response. Okay, now, and if it's a visual, I want you to think about everything that you've all heard this, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words. Okay, so for all of you experts out there, I want to give you some background on that. According to Wikipedia, this adage is in multiple languages, and the meaning that a complex and sometimes multiple ideas can be conveyed by a single still image, which conveys its meaning or essence more effectively than a mere verbal description. And here's the other thing, is that scientists believe that the brain is able to process images approximately 60,000 times more quickly than it processes a similar amount of written information, right? So when you think about it, some of those cause videos that we may see for taking care of animals who've been abused, yeah, I mean, that picture is gonna be processed so much faster than talking about it. It's going to be very, very powerful. I mean, for me, it's like visceral. I mean, it's like, oh. So when there's also ongoing research about this topic that indicates images are more likely to be remembered than words, because our brains dually encode images, which means that they encode it in two different ways, whereas words are only encoded once. And that's why I can think of all these images immediately. They come to mind. So here's the thing. The bottom line is that people feel, and we can't help but experience emotions. So what you want to be doing is helping your prospects and your clients decide with their hearts, and this will boost your sales. Using emotions and motivations and communicating your client why enables you to immediately pique their interest and secure their attention. It's an effective way to break down barriers, to attract and connect with your prospects and your clients. And understanding your client why and understanding what do they want, need, or lack. Why does it matter to them? So they can, tying that in with their motivations and their emotions is that secret sauce for you to position your product or service, and then use the images that resonate, that speak to that, the tone and the words that really create that emotion and feeling. And it enables you to frame your messaging to attract your ideal client avatar. Your sales success truly lies in your ability to understand your client's perspective, your emotions, and the motivations. That's why I'm constantly talking about the client why. And this goes hand in hand with your unwavering confidence and belief in your product or service. And putting these together will ultimately lead to closing more sales, helping more people, and creating massive impact. Now, I would love to hear what was your biggest takeaway from this episode. I just really appreciate getting your feedback, and it's important to share the things you love. If you loved this episode, a 5-star review really helps me keep the show coming to you regularly. And also, if you want to get more sales strategies to grow your business, make sure you subscribe right now. Now, today I explored why deciphering emotions and motivations gets stronger sales. The key is for you to implement these steps to stop wasting your time, energy, and resources. And if you want to get results even faster, I invite you to download my sales strategy checklist at petitetoqueen.com checklist. Now, next week on Get More Clients, I'll be discussing how to define and segment your market opportunities. This has been Lynn Whitbeck, host of Get More Clients, and I will see you next time.